What is up, Bible Baddies? It's your girl Dom.
And Audra.
And today we're doing James chapter 5, verses 1 through 12. Warning to the rich, patience and endurance. But first, we have some fun random news for you. I sent Audra a screenshot. So we got a random email from, I'm not even sure who. Oh, they're a type of platform that they screen your ratings in different countries and like, hey, you're trending in this direction. Hey, you're number 2 in this. And so they reached out and they're like, hey, Bible Baddies is number 27 in the country of Vietnam. And I was like, what? so shout out to Vietnam. We love our listeners in Vietnam. I just thought that was so cool. It's like 27. Like we made the top 100 in religion and spirituality. Like what?
We're crushing it.
But then I thought too, I was like, do they translate our voices? Or do they just know English?
I have no idea.
Right?
Oh my gosh.
I'll have to find it after this. That would be so funny. Oh man. Anywho, where do I get started? I mean, I know we talked about this before, and in James 1, he talked about how riches fade away and it withers. I'm not sure if he said like the morning dew or... Yeah, so James 1:11, he talks about the hot sun rises and grass withers, a little flower droops and falls, and its beauty fades away. In the same way, the rich will fade away with all of their achievements. And so I feel like that was almost the introduction into him diving into chapter 5 with the warning to the rich. And he basically gives us the scriptures talking more about it and using more comparisons. I love verse 2. How he says your wealth is rotting away and your fine clothes are moth-eaten rags. And then verse 3 says your gold and silver are corroded. I love how things come in threes. And so I noticed that he mentioned 3 types of wealth that someone can accumulate. And that is clothes, that's gold and silver, and then that's also food, because he talks about rotting away. And so I just assume that would be food. We hoard food for ourselves. In Luke 12, verses 13 through 21, Jesus uses the parable about the farmer and how the farmer basically hoards all this food for himself. And Jesus is like, I blessed you with all this food and the rain and this crop, and yet you just hoard it for yourself for gain and you don't give it to those that need it. And so it just reminds me of that, of how we need food to eat and some people just buy an excessive amount. They hoard it for the future. They hoard it for themselves, whereas they could pass bread to their neighbor who may need it more so than they even do.
It makes me think of whenever any world crisis happens and people immediately rush to the grocery store and they just buy everything. You know, some people let that food go to waste because you can't eat it all before it goes bad, but you've bought it up so that other people don't have the opportunity to buy it for themselves because you were selfish and only were worrying about you, you know, but in turn you could have only taken what you needed.
Yeah.
And left the rest for someone that also needed it as well.
That's such a great example. It reminds me of Florida. Whenever there's a hurricane, everyone rushes to the gas station to get all the gas. And so it leaves people without gas. Right. People rush to go get ice. People rush to go get water, tons of food. And in reality, it's like, hey, electricity is probably not going to be out longer than a couple weeks at most. And so why are you hoarding all of this for yourself? Your neighbor needs it. People across the street are going to need it. But yet you're so selfish, essentially. You're hoarding it all for yourself. Yeah. In case of an emergency. Yeah. That's such a good example. I love that.
Yeah, where it talks about in verse 2, your riches have rotted and your garments are moth-eaten. I have a daily grace study, and so I'm going through James as we go through James with it, and they made a great comparison, and your garments are moth-eaten, because I don't really understand that. And it said that basically you have so much that you can't even get to it, that moths have like started eating the clothes because you have so much. And it just makes me think of all the things in my life. Like, what is something that I have so much of that I can't even nurture and show my attention to and appreciate, you know, because I'm just accumulating. And then like, for what reasons am I accumulating this? For selfish gain, for societal gain, for whatever recognition I'm seeking, you know. But I just thought that that was really interesting. I didn't think of it like that, to have so much clothes that you can't even wear it all. And it's just like, what are you spending your money on? And like, what, I don't know. And I even think about that with food sometimes too. Yeah. I will buy food and it goes bad. And I immediately I feel so guilty because I'm like, oh, there are starving people in this world. And here I am letting food go bad, you know?
Yeah. It's like I bought so much food that I couldn't even eat it. And now, especially vegetable, like lettuce
Vegetables
and stuff,
are horrible.
all the time.
Yeah.
And I just had so much food, or I went out to eat all week. And I'm just so blessed that my food can even rot.
Right.
And you're so right, because there are places in Africa. I literally just looked this up as we were talking about it. But approximately 22 million people in the Horn of Africa are at risk right now of starvation due to a drought.
Yeah.
And I just think sometimes of how blessed we are that we have this much food, but there are parts in the world where people are severely hungry.
Yeah.
I mean, they would die for a piece of bread just to have a little piece. And then I'm just here, I let it rot away.
Yeah.
And sometimes too, like I'm even thinking of it. When's the last time I even prayed for people that were starving? It's been a minute. I used to a lot, but that I have clothes that bugs can get to and like dig their way in. Literally, because I just started a job, I was looking at all my old business suits and work clothes that I haven't worn in 4 years. And they were so dusty. And I was like, to be so blessed that I genuinely have to blow the dust off in the back of my closet, but I was just hoarding them.
Right.
Essentially for the day that I knew, oh, I'd get a new job and I'd have to wear them again. But I have such an excessive amount of clothes that those were not needed.
Oh, yeah.
And they just sat there and they basically rotted.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Well, I was thinking about that too with the yard sale that we had earlier this year. I had bags of clothes that I put on that yard sale. And it's because I was sitting here stockpiling, because I know how much I spend on my clothes. Shouldn't have spent what I spent anyway. But I know how much I spent. And so I had 7 trash bags full of clothes, boxes of clothes, because I was like, I'm not just going to give this away. How could I possibly just give this away? I spent so much money on it. But then my friend was in need and needed to raise money. So I put all that clothes on that yard sale. And at the end, not all of it sold. I could have bagged it right back up and been like, I'm going to sell it again. Like, I'm not letting this go. And instead I was like, I need to donate this and it needs to go to something else. When people need clothes in this world and I have bags of it sitting in my closet because I'm so greedy, the money's gone. At the end, I had no problem spending it on what I spent it on. So why do I care to earn it back? I'm gonna get what, $2 for a shirt, if that. Like, why do I care so much about the $2? Go give it to somebody that needs it. I've already spent it. It's gone. Who cares?
That's why I love the people on Facebook that have stuff for free. Hey, I don't need this couch anymore. Just come pick it up. It's like you're actually helping someone out. When someone I loved passed away and I had to sell their stuff on Facebook Marketplace, I just remember the chain of events of people, because it was very, very cheap. Like, hey, brand new washer, $100, not even. I think I sold it to them for $50. And then the stories they would tell me. You don't know how much this means to me that I'm getting a brand new dryer for $50. And I felt bad even taking their $50. I shouldn't have, but like, man, I shouldn't have taken, you know, like after they told me their story, I should be like, no, but I don't know. It's just so much good can go around if I just didn't hoard those things, you know? And it makes me think too of, I think it says in verse 3, it says, this corroded treasure you have hoarded will testify against you on the day of judgment. And I think about when I die, the stuff that's left behind, not that God counts it all and he's like, wow, Dom, you died. What is this going to do now? But what is it going to do now? Why did you need 20 business suits? Why did you need 15 pairs of shoes? Whatever it is. And I think of the word hoarded because there are things I definitely hoard, and that is ETs and Juicy Couture. And I had a moment where I collect ETs, weird obsession of mine, love that movie as a kid, but I had this dog toy ET and it's just sitting up in my closet. And Luge, my little sister, just got a new dog. And I remember having an internal crisis of, I really like to collect ETs, so I don't want to give this chew toy to the dog. But what is it doing in my closet? It's literally collecting dust for what? My own enjoyment. Every time I walk in, I just see like 20 ETs looking back at me like, no. And so I remember I gave her dog the ET, but it was like this internal conversation of, hey, this isn't doing anything for me. I'm just hoarding it. This dog could have a cute little ET toy anyways. I love this dog. I love my sister. Here you go.
Well, it makes me think of like, because I'm just thinking if you were to need something, right? And I had something that I could offer you, I would 1000% without a doubt be like, here, have this of mine. Like, you can have it. And like, what does it take for us to build that kind of like level with somebody where I won't even question if you needed something? I would give you the shirt off my back. I'd be like, have this. I love you. Why can't I just do that to a bystander? Why does it need to be this thing of, oh, you've earned this in my life, you know, like now I can give it to you. And maybe that me sitting in my own conviction of like how I love, right? Like you've earned my love, so therefore I will give to you kind of thing. But like, I don't know, it's just like a kind of a question that's in my mind. Like, how do you allow somebody to get to a level where you can give them whatever they need without question or without a profit made, but yet I'll charge my neighbor for a sofa I'm selling, but if you needed this sofa, I would just give it to you.
Right.
So why can't I just give it to the stranger?
Well, I think that goes back to truly sitting and loving your neighbor.
Right.
Literally. Honestly, this has happened. When I lived in Tampa, a neighbor knocked on my door and was like, hey, do you have a couple eggs? I'm making a cake. Completely forgot. And I was like, yeah, of course. Here's 2 eggs. I wasn't like, Venmo me $2. But if they would have said, hey, I really need a mattress to sleep on, and I see like you're selling one online, but I can't afford it, I would be less inclined. I'd be like, well, it's a big item. I want some cash. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's just like, if we could all love our neighbor to the extent as like, if they were your own family, they were your own sister, the world would be truly so amazing.
I mean, because isn't that how God intended it?
It would truly be heaven.
Yeah.
If we were all like, come on over. Yeah.
What's mine is yours.
Yeah, right. It's my house. It's your house. It's God's house.
Yeah.
Come on in. Take your shirt off my back. As people, as humans, we're less inclined to do that.
Well, and I mean, speaking from how I perceive that is like, I don't know what negative thing it is. I'm going to selfish, but it might not be that. For me to offer you this couch, it's my way of understanding you would do the same back for me. Like if I was hurting or needed something, you would also do, maybe it's not giving me a couch. Like I'm not the type of person where it's like tit for tat. Like it has to be a sofa, just the same dimension and everything. But like, you would do what you could for me, you know, to the best of your ability. And I know that. So if this sofa is what you need and I have that to the best of my ability, will help you. I don't know a random stranger. What if I give them the sofa and then I need something later in life and they tell me no? Oh, I don't want to do anything for you then.
Right.
Because you told me no. My best friend isn't going to say no to me. So therefore, I'm not going to say no to her.
Right.
But isn't that bad?
Yeah. And at the end of the day, I think it goes back to judgment,
right?
And judgment day, and God's gonna be like, hey, that person that told you no had to live with that, and you don't have to live with that, but you should feel so honored and blessed that you gave them that couch,
right? Even
though they didn't have your back,
right?
It's such a tough thing to absorb and actually do, because I'm the same way. Honestly, I will do anything for my friends and family, but a stranger, I'd be like,
right,
have you worked hard? You know, what's your deal?
Yeah.
I'm a little bit less prone to do nicer things, essentially. It's sad.
Yeah.
I mean, I wish I was more open to it, and I think I'm getting there, but...
Well, and I think on the flip side of that, too, if I'm driving down the road and there's a homeless person and I have something in my car that I can give them, I will give it to them. But if there was some guy on the side of the road that didn't look homeless, that didn't, in my opinion, need what I had to give them... I'd be less inclined to give it to them.
I feel like you're wrong.
Really?
I think you are 100% the person, no matter who they are, to give your shirt off their back. No, I'm serious. I'm going to use the Israel example.
Okay.
So we were both on a mission trip to Israel, and this homeless man, Audra had made a comment prior to this about how there's not a lot of homeless people in Israel. And she's like, I wonder where the homeless population is. And I think our tour guide said something along the lines of the Catholic Church might house them. And so you don't see them wandering, or like there's not tents like there are in America, you know, on the side of the road. This homeless man came up to Audra, and I was not there to witness this. I'm basically telling Audra's story right now, even though she's right here. Audra's too humble too. That's why I'm telling you. I know it. But basically this man came up to her and... I don't know, take it away. He said like he needed, or he had like a huge scab.
Well, he didn't say, we didn't speak the same language.
Oh,
and
I
didn't even realize
didn't think of that.
Yeah, I didn't think about that until later. I think we were back in America. Yeah, no, he had approached me, and it's actually a whole story. But like before I left for this mission, I went to Target and I went in the little travel section. Everything's teeny tiny, you know, and I was like, okay, whatever. I'm not the girl that buys lotion, wears lotion all the time. I just don't care. And I bought a teeny tiny travel lotion because I was like, what if I need it? So we're there, yes. And I run into this homeless person, and it's truly all like such a blur, but he just approaches me and I just like froze. And I literally like, he looked at me and he lifted up his pant leg and he had a gash to the bone. Like it was dry. I could see his bone. It had stopped bleeding. That's how open this wound had been. And I truly didn't even lose eye contact with this man. I just unzipped my fanny pack and I hadn't even carried the lotion the entire trip. I didn't have it in my fanny pack. I wore a fanny pack every single day, never grabbed that lotion. And that day I grabbed that lotion and I put it in there because I was like, I need to use it on the last day. And I just hold out the lotion and I say to him, all I have is lotion. I don't even remember. I just remember saying all I have is lotion. I don't even think I said anything else. And he took it. To me, I'm like, he knew what I was saying.
Right.
But we don't speak the same language. And I didn't realize that we didn't speak the same language until I got back to America and was thinking about that. And I was like, he understood me. That's God, first and foremost. He took the lotion, and then I remember we go into the spice store and I just start spiraling because I'm like, I need to save him. Like, I have to find something to rip for him and whatever. And I go back out on the street because I couldn't find anything. And I was like, if anything, I could give him the shirt off my back. Yeah. And I go out into the street and he's gone.
Yeah.
And this street was long. Yeah. You don't miss it. There was cars everywhere. No, he was gone. He shouldn't have been gone. I think it was an angel for real.
I think he was for sure an earth angel. It was like a test or something. I don't know. I get chills every time because I remember you running back into the spice store in havoc. Yeah. And I'm like, what's going on? And you're like, homeless man, big gash. We need to rip something. We need to get a towel. Do they sell towels? And I remember being like, oh my gosh, go back out there. Go back out there. We'll figure it out. And we looked every direction and he was gone. And it was just a long street. He must have turned, I don't know.
There was no corners.
There was no corners. It was very weird.
Yeah.
But such a cool story. Yeah. And so, moral of the story, Audra would 100% give the shirt
But that was a homeless person.
Yeah, but you didn't have to give him your lotion.
Yeah.
But you did. You were like, oh my gosh, you're in, here you go.
That's it.
Here you go. You're not hoarding the lotion for yourself. Oh, my skin might get dry after I wash my hands today.
Yeah.
And I think that's the point. Even when James talks about riches, the point of that is it's not that he's condemning people who are rich, because sometimes rich and grace coincide with each other because God gave you those riches. He blessed you. So it's not a bad thing. Right. He's not condemning the money and the riches people have. What he is condemning is when you do hoard things, when you defraud someone to get there, when you corrupt other people to get there, when you are in it for yourself. That's when it becomes bad. Yeah. And that's what James is talking about when it comes to these riches and hoarding your gold. And well, why?
Right.
When that homeless man came up to you, you couldn't give him a gold bar. You got 20 at home. I think that's truly what James is talking about. In that moment, you genuinely, all you had was lotion and you were like, here you go. And he took it. So therefore he needed it. He wanted it. You did your job. You did the Christian thing to do. And so you should feel proud of yourself. I know for a fact if you even had money on you, you would have given it to him. Yeah. And I know that from the bottom of my heart.
I mean, I think that's the perfect dive into verse 4-2, where it says, behold, the wages of the laborers who mowed your fields, which you kept back by fraud, are crying out against you. And the cries of the harvesters have reached the ears of the Lord of hosts. I think that really speaks to just stockpiling money that's owed to someone else. And maybe not even owed in the sense of laboring, but when you have a plethora of something and you're truly just withholding it back for your own security. God is your security. It is so great. And I commend people that have the savings account and the Roth IRAs and I don't even know what they're all called because I'm not a finance person. I don't know. But all these things and these investments, I do think that's very smart. And I think that's amazing. But when you've gotten to a level of you're almost when you have a fear of not having enough in all of that, I think that's when you need to really check your heart posture and know that God has you at the end of the day. And this is something that I even look back on in my life before I was a Christ follower. And I waited tables for the majority of my life. And there were times when I was like, I'm not going to make rent this month, and I would literally pay people to take their shift because I was like, I need money bad. I worked, I was never just going to sit by and be like, the Lord's got it, whatever, especially as a non-believer. But I look back now and I just see so much of God's hand in getting me to where I am today. He never left my side. And even though I was panicked and I was stressed and in my mind, I was the one in control and I was making sure that I was making ends meet each month, that was God because he wasn't going to let me fall. He knew exactly where he needed to get me to, and I needed to make rent in order for him to get me to where I am today. And that's not everybody's story. Some people miss rent, and maybe the Lord has a different plan for you. You know, I do have so much love, and I see him so much in my past, because I know that I didn't make rent because I made rent. I made rent because the Lord provided for me. Thank God. And I've been able to stay here as long as I have. And, you know, I have younger siblings who have told me several times, I couldn't do what you did. And I'm like, no, I can't do what I did.
Right.
But the Lord did it.
Right.
Okay. Like, I'm not perfect either, you know, right? Like, I still stress about money and like, you know, things. Yeah. And when we put our fear in the Lord and not in the material things, the Lord will bless us and the Lord will protect us.
100%. And diving even deeper is people's relationship with money. I was the same way. And my normal salary, I knew I would always hit rent. Right. But I used to ask people for more cases when I worked at a company. So I would get overtime and therefore make double what I was making, working more. Why? To hoard that money. Right. To go spend it on something I don't need. So it's just like the example of the relationship with money and your true intentions behind it. Are you wallowing in your wealth? Do you have an exorbitant amount? Are you abusing it due to things of pride and ego? You're oppressing other people because of it. You're cruel. What is a true source of your relationship with money? You knew you needed more money. Why? Because you needed that roof over your head, right? Yeah. But people want more money just to hoard it and just to have it. And there is no true purpose. They want to wallow in it. They want to show, I can go out and eat the fancy dinner this weekend. That's when it becomes toxic and it becomes bad. And I don't know, it just goes to show too, and James is always bad versus good, but even in verse 4, when it says, the cries of those who harvest your fields have reached the ears of the Lord of Heaven's armies. And I love how they use Lord of Heaven's armies, because truly we're always at war. There's good and there's evil. And when it comes to riches and people wallowing in that, riches is a good thing. Having money is a great thing. Being able to buy dinner at a restaurant is a great thing. But then when it's used for bad, it doesn't become good anymore. Right. You're abusing that. You're abusing the fact you have a lot of money. You're oppressing other people. You're not paying, if you're a farmer, you're not paying your farmer enough. You're defrauding them of their normal wages that they deserve. Right. That becomes bad. Right. And so it's having that healthy relationship with money, knowing, hey, not wallowing in it. I'm not oppressing other people by taking their money or not paying them enough if you're a business owner or whatever. Also, too, it just makes me think, too, when it says Lord of Heaven's armies, is that there's such a spiritual warfare going on. I just love that they use that, because sometimes I think of it truly as like you do have the angel on one shoulder and the devil on the other, because there's one side of you that's like, work harder, get the money. Yeah. Buy this. You want it. You deserve it. Yeah. And then there's the angel that's like, hey, you don't need it. You got rent. You're good. Someone else might need those cases more than you. Right. They actually might need rent. They have 4 children to feed. You're just living by yourself and you can do it. It's truly like the inner battle and the inner dialogue. And it comes back to your relationship with God and what's he saying to do with that money? What's he guiding you to? Yeah.
I mean, I think it's really interesting too, to look back even at the root of just the people in biblical times and like their love of money. And just to recognize too that Jesus was hung on a cross because Judas took money. He took a bribe. That just like gives me chills to think about that. Judas betrayed Jesus for silver.
Literally.
And then he ended up at the end of all of it, gave it back. Yeah. And then he hanged himself. Yeah. And so it's like, obviously Jesus was put on this earth and he was going to be crucified. Right. But the fact that it was for silver did it. Judas was like, name a price and I'll do this. To the man who he had been following, you were walking so closely to God and you betrayed him for a bag of silver. That's what money does. And that's what the love of money does. Because what did that do for him? Absolutely nothing. He wallowed in his guilt later. Right. And committed suicide.
Literally. 1 Timothy 6 verse 10, it literally talks about money and truly how money is the root of all evil. And it's shown in betraying Jesus.
Yeah.
Just like you were saying.
Yeah.
It truly is the root of all evil.
The love of it.
The love of it, the gluttony of it. And so you're willing to defraud people. You're willing to murder, like we talked about. You're willing to do these heinous crimes. For what?
Right.
For what?
Right.
It's
I mean,
not worth it.
I even think, to throw my family under the bus a little bit, but me and my dad, we really struggle in our relationship. And a huge struggle that we have is his love of money. And I would always get so frustrated because as his child, I had no choice to be on this earth. I grew up thinking we were really, really poor. That's what I thought. Mm-hmm. And I had that mindset. And I remember one night I took my dad's truck to a party, you know, all my friends loaded in the truck. One of my boyfriend's friends was in the back seat. And I guess my dad had his checkbook back there. And this guy actually was poor. He had a single mom raising him. She didn't have a great job, and they were and he had to work to help pay his mom's bills. Wow. I didn't have to do that, you know, but my idea was like, we were poor, whatever, it just looks different. And I remember we got to the party and we all got out of the truck, and he was like, hey, can I talk to you? And so I like stood back, whatever. And he was like, why do you act like you're poor? And he kind of was like, I could tell he felt like almost like I was mocking him, you know, in the sense of like, I thought I was poor. And I was like, well, what are you talking about? Like, I'm embarrassed, right? Because I'm like, don't bring it up. Like, what are you talking about? And he was like, I'm poor. You're not poor. And I was like, what are you talking about? And he was like, your dad's checkbook's in the back seat. He makes well over 6 figures. And honestly, it blew my mind because I, first of all, like so much respect for my parents, but have never gone through my dad's checkbook. That is his personal stuff. Right. I'm not doing that, whatever. But he did. And very much so, like, he never withheld his finances from me for a lesson of like, I want her to be good with her money. I want her to know how to manage it well. I want to set her up for success in this world. It was very much withheld from me because it was his. That's okay. And no shit. Like, I'm not a parent. I don't know how to parent. You know, I'm not saying that he did it wrong or right or whatever. In living that out and just, you know, even like reading this and kind of what that's about, my dad had more than enough to fund his life and his 4 children's lives. And in turn, we're not, you know, I had to pretty much make everything I made on my own and like whatever. And again, like there are very great lessons learned in all of that. However, I wish my dad could have guided us through those lessons instead of letting the world teach us those, because I would have had much more respect for my dad if he would have guided me through those lessons and then been like, and this is why I chose to do what I did. But instead, I very much grew up watching him be selfish, and it was him saying, I worked for this. It is mine. What I am giving you, I'm being generous in giving you what I'm giving you. And it just became this thing of like, listen, buddy, I don't want your money. It got to a point where my dad would send me checks and I would call him and say, hey, I didn't cash it. I just want to let you know. It just created this very unhealthy, I had resentment for him. I would watch him go out and buy these nice things for himself. My dad had 5 cars at one time, and I was over here driving like a beater. And I was like, how? But then I'd be like, but it's his money and he worked for it. And like, who am I, you know? But I very much disagree. Like, if you're going to bring children in this world, I'm not asking for you to pay everything for them and like their tuitions and all the things, but it's like you have an obligation and a responsibility to provide for this child, you know, to some degree. Like if you have these aspirations for them, like you want them to go to college and kind of send them on a guilt trip, but you don't help them get there, like, who are you? You know, like, I don't know. And maybe that's just me ranting on this, but I look at him and I see his love of money, and I see people who have such a love of money, and I just truly don't understand it because I just see it cause so much divide. And when you love it more than your children or your spouse, I don't know. We all have our own sin struggles, and I thank God that that's not mine.
Yeah. Thanks for being vulnerable. I'm like, oh. At the end of the day, you're so right, because money, we know, can cause evil and what people do with their money. But on top of that too, it's just sad because divorces, usually about money. Yeah. Fights, usually about money. Relationship issues, usually about money. Fights with your sisters or your cousins, usually about money.
Oh,
you didn't pay me back. I bought you Taco Bell, whatever it is. It's so sad to see that it tears people apart, but it does. And then it's also correcting to the behaviors of it. I always think too, no one's really to blame. Like at the end of the day, we can control it. It's not about me, and like I made this money. It's about, hey, we're a family, we're a unit. This is God's money. Hey, what should we do with it?
Right.
Hey, I want to kind of splurge and buy myself this. Is this okay? I'm just so insanely blessed. Makes me so sad that like almost you had to go through that and see that. Like it makes me so upset because like one of those 5 cars could have been for you and your siblings, you know? And like you're sitting here thinking, hey, I don't know if my parents are going to make ends meet, but they were like beyond that. Mm-hmm. I mean, even in some of my relationships and their friendships, their personal relationships, whatever, but I mean, money's even torn apart people away from me. There's times where everything's 50-50, everything's 50-50, and like in reality, life isn't like that.
Yeah.
In reality, friendships aren't like that. Relationships aren't like that. Some days I'm only going to have 20% of me, and you're going to have to figure out the 80. When it comes to money, when it comes to chores, whatever it is, it's just, there's going to be points where nothing is 50-50. And so even when people say like, hey, we'll go to dinner and it's 50-50, like I always wanted to be the friend like, hey, I got you this time. Don't worry about it. I know it'll come around. Like, don't worry about it. That's the beautiful thing, is just knowing, hey, I can afford this dinner for both of us. I don't need to split everything 50-50.
Yeah.
Oh, well, you got drinks and I did, you know?
Right.
It's just, it becomes so convoluted, and that's what happens in society. I mean, even going out for coffee, I mean, most of us just buy our own coffees and that's that. But like, hey, I got you. It's a $5 coffee. Like, I love you. Thanks for meeting with me. Move on.
Right.
Make someone's day. It's like when we become so obsessed about money and splitting things all the time, it's exhausting.
Right.
It's truly so exhausting. And there comes a point where it's not your money. It's not my money. If we're both Christians and we're sitting here, it's God's money.
Right.
He blessed both of us with a roof over our head and these microphones and this podcast and this Bible that we're reading. And so it's all God's. Yeah. And guess what? Just like the moth-eaten clothes, it all goes away when we die.
Right.
Where's that going to get me anyways? The topic of money, like, I'm not Dave Ramsey, but by all means, but from a biblical perspective, we know a few facts, right? It's God's. Mm-hmm. We're blessed. And if I have more than enough, then I can take care of people.
Yeah.
Especially someone asked me, hey, Dom, I need $20. Can you cover me? Hey, money's a little tight. That, of course.
Right.
I'm blessed and I can bless you with my money, because it's not even my money. It's God's.
Yeah.
And that's the whole beautiful thing, is like, if we stick to the Bible and we stick to the facts, we are beyond blessed. And so it pains me to even hear like your story and hear other people's stories and hear people's relationships tearing apart, divorces. It's always about money.
Yeah.
Oh, 50-50. Oh, he makes more money. I get 70. Mm-hmm. It's just, what?
Right.
We're not sad about what's at hand. A marriage is ruined.
Yeah.
And you guys are thinking about money.
Right.
Your relationship with your dad, maybe, I can edit this out if you want, but it's a little tarnished now because you had to find out from another kid the reality of money coming and going in your house.
Yeah. I mean, I even think that like it's affected my dating lifestyle as well, because like even on dating apps and stuff, if I even sense a guy has, even if he is really just great with his money, like if he comes off in the slightest, he loves it, I'm out. Like, I don't want anything to do with it. It drives me insane. I can't. I could deserve a man that has a great job and wants to take care of me. And that's a me thing. And I have to take that up with God. Like, I have to pocket my pride and be like, I can accept money from a man, and it doesn't have to have any anchors tied to it, you know? But I'm so fearful of that, because if I take your money, then what do I owe you?
Exactly. And that was a huge thing for me in college, especially. I used to buy my own drinks. A guy would be like, hey, I want to buy you a drink. No, I'm buying my own drink. I don't want you to think I owe you anything.
Yeah.
But in reality, I should hope someone would want to spend money on me, buy me a drink at the bar. But I used to have this warped idea of money was control, money was power. I was just like, these men think they have control over me and power because they bought me a drink and like they can kiss me or whatever. Get out of here. I'll buy my own drink. I don't need you. Like, get out of here. I'll buy my $3 Coors, whatever. And then growing up, having that mentality, I'm now realizing, no, wait. I want a boy to buy me a drink. I want him to take me to a nice dinner and not expect anything.
Right.
He just loves me so much that nothing is owed.
Right.
There's no bill to be split. Our relationship is priceless. His love for me is priceless. Love conquers all. So when those relationships put money above it, it's so hard to correct. You just want to shake them and be like, wake up!
Right.
Come on. A lot of relationships are like that.
Yeah.
A lot of friendships are like that. And it's so sad.
Yeah. It's so sad that even now we ask people, what do you do for a living? Or like, what do you do? And like, you don't even have to say for a living. And people will immediately tell you their job.
Yeah.
And I saw this somewhere, probably a TikTok or a reel, but I thought it was so fascinating because you ask me, what do I do? I will immediately tell you, oh, I'm an interior designer. What do I do though? I hang out with my friends. I read my Bible. I like to be outdoors. Those are things like, who am I? What do I do? Those are things that I do. Those are things that I am. Yes, I'm an interior designer. That is my paycheck. Do I have a love of it? Of course I do. I find it enjoyable. I get satisfaction from that. But that is not all that I am. And my job should not determine how you view me. It doesn't matter where I'm getting my income from or how I'm doing that. That has nothing to do with who I am as a person.
Yeah. It's like, no, actually, I'm a sister.
Yeah.
I'm a cousin. I'm a granddaughter. I'm a Bible baddie. I have church group every Tuesday. I do Bible study at 10 a.m. on Sundays. That's who I am.
Yeah.
I love to be outdoors. I like to go for runs by the river. River's how I talk to God the most, feel him the most. Those are the things that mean the world.
Right.
And the question too, and I think I'm repeating myself at this point, how's your relationship with God?
Right.
Why isn't that a topic of conversation? Like, hey, you growing your faith? Are you stagnant? What's going on? How can I help inspire you, move you? Because at the end of the day too, I don't know how to help you at your job.
Right.
I'm clueless.
Right.
But like, maybe we can chat. Maybe we can go grab the Bible and meet together. God loves it when two people are in the room together talking about him. Those are things that count in life. It's hard for people to wake up because we're here on earth, and it's really easy to have the earthly vision of the nice things, the earthly things, 100%.
Right.
And honestly, it is a lot harder to just have God as the forefront of your vision. Well, it's like, wait, God, I'm steering here. I need a nice house. Wait, I'm steering to the right. I need a nice car. Wait, I'm going away. I need this new job, whatever. But in reality, when you have God at the forefront, everything else will fall together.
Yeah.
I even pulled this up, but Jesus' own words in Luke 12, verse 21 says, yes, a person is a fool to store up earthly wealth, but not have a rich relationship with God. Just have that relationship with God. It's priceless. Money cannot buy that. Money can't buy you the dreams, the visions, the God signs, the prayers answered, the miracles answered. Money can't buy that stuff. Money can't buy the friendships you'll have from your church community, the love you have for one another, the growth, just having conversations about God. Money can't buy that.
No.
The cliche thing, money can't buy happiness. But not only that, money can't buy God.
Right.
You can't buy your way into heaven. It's not possible.
No.
And so instead, what are you doing
Right.
to get there? And that's all.
All right, everyone, that's going to be $19.99, and we want you to just kidding.
Please subscribe $4.99 a month.
What's that site that it's like Peloton? No, that's a bike.
I don't know.
Doesn't matter. We don't have one, people. We don't want your money.
You can sign up for our master class. It's only like one of those.
Yeah.
But I think to all that point too is having the patience and endurance to get there. Having the patience and endurance, even if it comes to money. Hey, I'm not making the paycheck I need. I'm not making ends meet. Just having the patience and endurance with God through that. Going to him for it, asking him for help. Guide me, God. Use me as a vessel. Help me out.
Yeah. It all stems back to control, right? And like money is probably the best form of control. Like if you have more money than somebody and you want them to do something, like you're probably going to be able to get them to do that. Whether it's paying somebody to make them do it or paying somebody off. Having patience and endurance is truly saying to God, like, I'm releasing this to you and I trust you, you know, in your timing, in your way, in your will, it will be done, you know? And when I can sit back and say like, hey, I would love to travel more, you know, I would love to own a house. I would love all of these things, but God will do that when it's my time to do all that stuff. Right. He will make it happen for me. And I believe in that and I trust that. And now I have to work on my patience in that because I want it now. And God's saying, no, there's refinement to do. There's something else that I have for you now. There's something else that I'm working on right now. I am in control. So you be patient. You do what you can. You keep me at the center of it, and you be patient through it. And that's all we can do.
That's all we can do. At the end of the day, too, life is very much out of our control.
All of it.
All the time. We can't control what other people say about us, do to us. We can't control, we get a flat tire on the way to work. Whatever it is, life is very uncontrollable. And so in reality, it's like, truly, what are we trying to control?
Right.
It's kind of silly. It's foolish.
We run ourselves ragged.
Right.
It's ridiculous.
At the end of the day, we can't control it, but we can release that control to something greater, and that's God. God, I'm giving this to you. I'm giving my frustration to you. I'm giving my unhealthy relationship with money to you. I'm giving all these things to you, and guide me through it.
Yeah.
We're all seeds in the beginning, and he sees us growing, especially when we start growing our relationship with him. He sees us growing, and we keep going and going and going. We're going to be this bright, big bush that he planted.
Right.
And it's all for glory to him.
Right.
And so when we're patient, when we endure the trials we're going through in life, we know we'll be rewarded.
Yeah.
It's like James say, be humbled. Be so happy and humbled you're going through this trial, because over the hill, the grass is so much greener on the other side. You're going to be so much more joyful. You're going to be so much more happy, but endure this.
Right.
Be patient with me.
Because you're going to appreciate it more too, right? Like, I just think of all the things that I had, like even just the story I told of like not being a believer and now being a believer, and being able to look back and see, even though I did not believe in God and I did not have my faith in him, I can look back now and see him everywhere in my life. There's a song called Another in the Fire, and it makes me sob every time I listen to it, because I think of my life, and like there were times when I truly, like, I would sit and I'd be like, there can't be a God. There can't be one, because I would not be in this right now. I do not deserve to be here. I was a good kid. I was respectful to my parents, and this is where I'm going through right now. There is no God. And now I look and I see where I am, and like God was there. He was in all of that. And I had no idea. And now I can sit here and appreciate what I walked through, because I look at what I have now, and it might not be the fancy house and it might not be the fancy car, but it's so much more than that. I had horrible friendship in high school. I was mean. Like it is like by my own hand that I had the friendships that I had. Granted, like they were mean as well. So equal parts, but I was just to them as they were to me. And I look at my life now and I am just to you as you are to me. And it's so much better. God put these people in my life. He put these people in my life to love me so much, because I missed out on what I thought love was when I was growing up. And now he's redefining what the word love means to me. I don't have to do in order to receive. I have these people in my life who see me. And it's like, wow, God, like I walked through so much truly hell just to get here. And like, it gives me so much more hope for what else he's going to do in my life. And I think that that's why it's so important to embrace the rain when you have it, because the Lord will bring the harvest. And man, is it good.
It's so good.
Yeah.
Just in that, you're so much more humbled and appreciative and happy. Like you're sitting here and you're like, I have a roof over my head. I have my car. I have my dog. I have you as a friend. And we're sitting here, and that's all I need. Thank you, God. You know, it's so beautiful once you get to that point, because then you truly realize nothing else really matters. Right. My heart's in the right place with God. I'm growing in my relationship, and here I am. Right. And it's just so beautiful. And it's truly, and I'm somehow tying this back to money, but when you're patient, it makes me think of, at least for me, I love clearance shopping. I'm a clearance junkie, because I like the nice things, but I don't like paying full price for anything. Yeah. But everything always ends up on clearance. Oh my gosh, and then when you buy that thing you wanted so bad, but you waited longer for cheaper, the feeling of getting, you know, something at such a discount because you were patient and you waited is just amazing. So imagine if that little example is in your life, you're waiting on your husband, a future boyfriend, whatever it is, and you're waiting, and you're like, what the heck? Come on, God, why isn't he here? I thought it'd be sooner. My expectation was greater. I thought I'd be married out of college, whatever. It's going to be so much better because you waited and you endured and you were patient with God. Yeah. And he's crafting you in the waiting. He's crafting your person in the waiting. And it's just the most beautiful, defined thing ever. I know James talks about Job, and you know I love Job, Audra.
I gotta check my heart when I read Job.
Really?
Yeah.
What's interesting too is that James mentions prophets in the Old Testament. And I thought it was cool because I know Jeremiah is a prophet who went and endured a lot of mistreatment. He kind of went through the patience and endurance. And these are people that God loves. Like, they are prophets of God. He loves them, but yet they still experience things. Like Job experienced great endurance because the Lord was so kind to him and gave him double what he lost, right? And in Jeremiah, he endured mistreatment. He was put in prison. He was put into a dungeon, but yet like he still persisted with his ministry. And so it just makes me think people of God, no matter who you are, will always have that trial, but just being patient and enduring it and keep going with your ministry, keep growing in your relationship with God. I mean, Job especially had everything ripped away from him, but he kept going. He was patient with God. He pleaded with God. He endured the pain and suffering, and God rewarded him with double. And I love how in the end too, James says in verse 11, "For the Lord is full of tenderness and mercy." And I underline tenderness and mercy because those are two characteristics God has. He's tender with us. He gives us mercy. And it shows through examples in the Bible. Prophets like Jeremiah, someone like Job who lost everything. And so I just thank God for his tenderness and mercy in all of it.
Me too.
Yeah. Do you find it interesting where it said never take an oath by heaven or earth or anything else? Just say a simple yes or no so that you will not sin and be condemned.
I don't think I really understood it, to be honest.
Really? You know what I got from that?
Tell me.
But it made me think, why would you ever take an oath or pledge to do something? Because you don't know what the future holds. So you're almost being foolish. But a simple yes or no in the moment is all that matters. And it brings me back to just living in the moment because you don't know what the future holds. You can swear an oath to your company, yeah, I'm going to work here 12 years, and they could be doing fraud, and then you're trapped there. Why would you take an oath? Why would you lie? You don't know what the future holds. And so taking an oath or a pledge to something is foolish. You don't know what the future holds. We're not in control of the future.
Right.
Just be in the moment in everything in life. Just a simple, sure, yeah, I'll make it tomorrow. No, I can't. I'm busy. It's fair enough.
It's so funny too that you bring up that example because it just makes me think of like, as we can sit here and look in the world and see all the goodness of God, like we can also look around us and see how far the world has fallen. That the fact that like a job could make us sign a contract to them, you know? Yeah. And it's like, you don't know what the future holds. And now I've signed 10 years of my life to you, and this might not be my forever. But the world, because it's fallen, has kind of set us up for this misguidedness, these things that aren't meant for us, you know, and it's because not of our own control that we sign this contract. I need the money. This is the job that's being offered to me. I have to take it. They are not fearing the right thing. And they're saying, I need to control you. I need to own you. So therefore you have to give me to protect myself because I don't care about you. Right. I'm going to make you sign this document that says you will commit to 10 years of your life to me. Yeah. Control.
100%.
On that flip side, obviously you're going to run into that. It's hard to avoid that, right? That's where you're encouraged to pray. Hey, God, this is what's being offered to me right now. Is this by your hand or my own? And like, that's where you can sit and look at people and be like, they're nuts that they did not take that job. This is the one job that came their way. And they said, I'm going to sit and wait it out. Like, and you sit and look at those people and you're like, you are insane. How are you going to feed your family? And then bam, they get a check in the mail. Those are the miracles that are actually truly insane because they're being so obedient to God and saying like, he said no. Yeah. So it's a no. But like, how often do we do that in life? Like where we're like, okay, God, like I'm going to give this to you. Is this what you have for me? Is this your will? That's so scary.
It's so scary, but it's just so cool how he works.
Yeah. And he will.
And it's literally just following him.
Yeah.
The Bible gives so much clues. Like I swear it's not that
scavenger
hard.
Hunt.
It is a scavenger hunt. But sometimes I think the Bible is very complex, and sometimes that's why I think things can be so confusing too. Like, I don't want to say like the Bible's simple. It's really not. It is it's just hard sometimes when you're going through something to understand, okay, how does this apply to me biblically? But it's just cool how he works.
Yeah.
On that note, I will pray us out. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you so much for getting Audra and I here together. I pray over the listeners listening and that you could just guide them with their money and with their riches. We are so thankful that you have blessed us with what we have, dear Lord. I just want to thank you for everything you've done, all the blessings seen and unseen, the miracles seen and unseen in our lives, and where we will be, dear Lord. But for now, we just want to be patient and endure through the trials or through the current journeys that we're going through, dear Lord, and that we just ask you to continue to guide us and use us as a vessel for good. And in your name we pray, amen.
Amen.